Tonight, you understand where babies come from. You know about biology. You know about pregnancy. You know about sperm, eggs, genes, and DNA. But go back 100,000 years. No books existed. No doctors existed. No schools existed. No one could explain the human body with science. And yet, humans still reproduced. Children were still born. Families still formed. Tribes still grew. So the question is simple. How did cavemen understand reproduction? And the answer is stranger than you think. Because they did not understand it the way we do, they understood it through survival, through observation, through instinct, and through the one teacher that never stopped speaking, nature. Imagine waking up in a world before civilization. No houses, no hospitals, no written language, no calendars, no mirrors, no privacy, just your tribe, the forest, the animals, the sky, and the constant threat of death. Every day was about survival. Find food, avoid predators, protect the group, stay warm, stay alive. That was life. But survival was not only about living through the day, it was also about making sure someone lived after you. Because if your tribe stopped having children, your tribe disappeared. There was no backup plan. There was no government. There was no medicine to save a dying population. There was only one way for the group to continue. New life had to be born. A caveman did not know what DNA was. He did not know what chromosomes were. He did not know that sperm fertilized an egg. He did not know that pregnancy began inside the body, at least not in the scientific way we understand it now. But he knew something. He knew that women became pregnant. He knew that babies came from women. He knew that men and women had a special connection, and he knew that after that connection, sometimes a child appeared. That was enough. Not perfect knowledge, not scientific knowledge, but enough knowledge to survive. They watched animals closely. They saw deer mate in the wild. They saw wolves raise their pups. They saw birds build nests for their young. They saw mothers feed their babies. They saw pregnant animals become slower and heavier. They saw newborns appear after seasons passed. They did not need a textbook. The world itself was the textbook. Every forest was a living classroom. Every animal was a powerful lesson. Every birth was undeniable proof. Life came from life, and slowly humans began to connect the pattern. The pattern became obvious. A woman was not always pregnant. Then something happened. Time passed. Her body slowly changed. Her belly began to grow. The tribe noticed everything. Then one day, a baby arrived. This would not happen only once. It would happen again and again. Over thousands of generations, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Men and women came together. Women carried new life. Babies were born into the tribe. The tribe continued forward. They may not have known the hidden biology, but they understood the visible result. Before explanation, there was instinct. Humans did not need to be taught attraction. They did not need a theory of reproduction. They felt desire before they understood it. They followed natural urges before they could explain them. This was not unique to humans. Animals did the same thing. A wolf does not understand genetics. A bird does not understand fertility. A deer does not understand pregnancy. But life still continues. Because nature does not wait for understanding. Nature only needs the behavior to happen. And for early humans, that instinct was already deep inside them. But here is where humans were different. Humans did not only reproduce. Humans started asking questions. They noticed repeated patterns. They remembered important events. They told stories around the fire. They connected one thing to another. They saw birth, death, hunger, blood, pain, and desire. And they tried to make sense of it all. That is where reproduction became more than biology. It became mystery. It became ritual. It became power. Women understood parts of reproduction more directly. They felt their bodies change from within. They experienced pregnancy themselves. They gave birth through pain and danger. They fed the child after birth. They knew the pain. They knew the danger. They knew the timing of their own bodies. Long before science, women carried practical knowledge. They knew when something felt different. They knew when a child was coming. They knew what birth looked like. They knew what survival after birth required. That knowledge mattered deeply because giving birth in the ancient world was dangerous. A baby could die. A mother could die. Both could die. So the knowledge of women was not small, it was survival knowledge. In a small tribe, nothing stayed hidden for long. People lived close together. They slept near each other. They ate together. They moved together. They raised children together. Everyone saw pregnancy happen. Everyone saw birth happen. Everyone saw babies grow. A child was not just the concern of one mother. A child belonged to the future of the group. Every new baby meant more hands later, more hunters, more gatherers, more protection, more memory, more chance that the tribe would survive. So reproduction was not private in the way we think of it today. It was a group concern. It was part of survival itself. But humans hate mystery. When they do not understand something, they create stories. So early humans likely explained reproduction through myths. Maybe they believed spirits placed life inside women. Maybe they believed the moon controlled fertility. Maybe they believed animals, ancestors, or gods had power over birth. Maybe every tribe had a different story. But the purpose was always the same. Stories made the unknown feel understandable. They gave meaning to pain. They gave meaning to birth. They gave meaning to life itself. And around the fire, those stories were passed down. At night, the tribe gathered around fire. Children listened in silence. Elders spoke with memory. Hunters told what they had seen. Mothers told what they knew. Stories became memory. Memory became tradition. Tradition became culture. This is how knowledge survived before writing. Not on paper, not in books, but in voices, in warnings, in songs, in rituals. In the minds of the young, a child learned by watching, then by listening, then by living. Early humans also learned through trial and error. Some unions produced children, some did not. Some pregnancies ended safely. Some ended in tragedy. Some children survived. Some did not. Every generation learned something from the last. Which women became pregnant, which babies survived, which behaviors protected mothers, which foods seemed to help, which dangers had to be avoided. This was not modern medicine, but it was still learning, slow, painful, imperfect, but real. To us, reproduction can sound like biology. To them, it may have felt like magic. A body changed, a belly grew, a baby appeared. A new human entered the world. Think about how impossible that must have seemed. There was no microscope, no anatomy chart, no explanation of cells, just a woman in pain, a child crying for the first time, and an entire tribe watching life continue. Of course, they treated it as sacred. Of course, they built rituals around it. Of course, they connected it to spirits, animals, the moon, and the earth, because birth was the closest thing to creation they could witness. Men likely understood reproduction more slowly. They could see desire, they could see pregnancy, they could see birth, but the connection between one act and a baby months later was not instantly obvious. There was a long delay. That delay made reproduction mysterious. A man could not see what happened inside the body. He could only see the result much later. So early humans may have understood the connection gradually. Not in one discovery, not in one moment, but across thousands of births, across thousands of families, across thousands of generations. The pattern taught them. At some point, humans understood enough. They understood that men mattered. They understood that women carried life. They understood that birth followed certain relationships. They understood that children came from the connection between adults. They did not need the full science, they needed the pattern. And once they saw the pattern, everything changed. Reproduction became part of social rules, part of family structure, part of tribe identity, part of survival planning, because the future depended on it. Once humans understood reproduction, they could think beyond themselves. They could think about children, they could think about bloodlines, they could think about inheritance. They could think about who belonged to whom. They could think about the future. That was a huge step because animals reproduce. But humans build meaning around reproduction. Humans create families. Humans create names. Humans create ancestors. Humans create stories about where they come from. And those stories shape entire civilizations. Today we explain reproduction with science. We make diagrams. We teach it in classrooms. We describe hormones, cells, and anatomy. And that knowledge is powerful, but ancient humans had something different. They had direct contact with life. They watched birth closely. They watched death closely. They watched nature every day. They did not separate themselves from the cycle. They were inside it. They lived it. They feared it, they respected it. So how did cavemen understand reproduction? Not with science, not with books, not with words like genetics or fertility. They understood it by watching animals, by watching women, by watching children grow, by noticing repeated patterns, by listening to elders, by trusting instinct, by surviving long enough to learn. And maybe that is the strange part. They did not know everything. But they knew enough to continue the tribe, enough to protect mothers, enough to value children, enough to understand that life had to move forward. For thousands of years, humans carried this knowledge without writing it down. No books, no classrooms, no doctors, just bodies, stories, firelight, and the ancient rhythm of life repeating again and again. We explain reproduction with science now, but they understood it first through survival. And without that ancient understanding, none of us would be here.